And we are live. What is up, my YouTubers? The 7th Aspie YouTube collab underway at last. We have a very large crowd here today, and not only do we have a large crowd, we have some brand new faces. So, Caleb and Bryce, in that order, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm a musician, singer, songwriter, composer, based here out of the Midwest. Kind of recent to the autism community, as I've sort of been rediscovering who I am in the last 18 months. So I'm happy to be here tonight.
Very nice. So, you're newly diagnosed?
Yeah, it's something I think I've kind of always sort of known was there, but I don't know. We could get into it later. I never really wanted to wear a label.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
never really kind of acknowledged it. I just kind of ignored that.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Well, thank you for being here. Bryce, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. My name is Bryce. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a dancer, and I've been diagnosed with autism for a long time. I didn't even know I had it until the 6th grade, and
Okay.
I just had a lot of issues in the past, but I'm not ashamed of it now. And I think, you know, the autism spectrum, uh, it teaches me how to be different, and I really
100%.
support the spectrum.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bryce, for coming on, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So thank you. So everyone, we got 2 more people joining. There is another guest. Hey, are you the world of JP?
Hey
Hey,
Alex.
French. Would you mind introducing yourself, JP?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm at a McDonald's now, where I'm doing this meeting. So I hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah, 100%. Would you mind telling us about your channel real quick?
So my name is JP. I have an artist name. I go by the name of JP Zur. I'm actually also a DJ and a producer from Montreal, Quebec. I'm in Canada right now. I started making music back in 2019. I was I'm also an independent worker at the moment, so I'm not doing music full time. But I have lots of great things going on with music related, but also outside the music related, I have a lot of things to work on this channel. I actually deleted every video from here, so it's looking good. No, I post music, I post remixes, I post original tracks, I post some edits and mashups as well. So yeah, I do a lot of things on this channel.
Good stuff, man. Well, I'll definitely be sure to post your link, and hopefully you can get some brand new subscribers.
Yes.
All right, so everyone, we have a very good show today. It might get pretty intense, but that's all right. We're going to be talking about our relationships and how they change from elementary school to middle school. So the order it's going to go in: Caleb, Quigley, Sarah, Alan, Malachi, French, JP, Bryce, and then April. And we got 2.5 minutes per question, because we're going to keep this at a reasonable length. But you can obviously go shorter than that if you don't have a lot to say. So, Caleb, are you ready for the first question?
Sure.
Awesome. The first question is, how did your relationship with your peers change from elementary school to middle school?
They changed pretty drastically. I was a my entire life, so more of my, I guess, peer relationship was to the church and things like that. And I think when we were littler kids, our thoughts were less complex. We just kind of accepted things at face value. Everything from diversity to adversity, even just I don't want to share this truck with you was kind of a,
Right.
the biggest problem we 5, 6 years old, as I grew older, I guess maybe I kind of started to feel weirder and weirder and weirder around my own generation, and as pop culture started to become more of a thing on the radar of the guys and girls my own age, I kind of just found myself bowing out of society as I knew it. Start hanging around with more adults.
Yeah. 100%. Thank you, Caleb. Quigley, how did your relationship change with your peers from elementary to middle school?
Well, I would say it slid like kind of in the opposite direction, where I definitely the other kids definitely started noticing more that I was like weird. It didn't help that I changed schools at the time, and I stopped being in like the gifted program where we were all the weird kids, and now I was in a private school in the mainstream program, and I was like the person there whose family had the least money, so that didn't help anything. But so what I did was I kind of just figured out what everyone else was into and just sort of tried to latch onto it to just try and fit in as much as possible. It didn't work, but I tried really hard.
Yeah, 100%. So you kind of like set up that mask, like once things started to change.
Oh yeah, like 100%. I started to become like really self-conscious about absolutely everything that I did or said, and would constantly be second guessing everything that I did or said. That never really went away. But
yeah, definitely. Thank you, Quigley. Yeah, that's certainly a relatable experience. What about you, Sarah?
First of all, hate to be this guy. Whoever has their mics on whenever the other people, the sound is just, it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, everyone might want to mute their mics.
I'm like, I just got to. I want to be able to hear what the other people are saying too.
Yeah, I got that for you.
Yeah. So my bad, but not. So for me, to be honest, I'm not sure I knew what was going on in either of those grades. But I moved around all over Texas as a kid, and I didn't quite understand the social realm or why there were groups and stuff, but or why people separated themselves from each other. And it's not that I couldn't do it or try to fit in with them or neurotypicals in general, but I just couldn't always solve the human equation. I viewed things a bit upside down and literally would turn my head sideways and look at things. So I don't really think that really helped out, It's like trying to figure it out. But I guess the main difference is, besides feeling like I'm entrapped and I'm trying to figure out people like robots and they're not, was that the bullying lessened later on, like not really, but I guess for me, elementary and middle school, like there was more bullying and things, and I think I started to figure out stuff a little more along the way to not go through that. And I guess with how I looked, I could get into the popular crowds and stuff, but as soon as they saw my quirks and eccentricities, I was rejected immediately for not complying, which is why I love 7 of 9, and I could go into Star Trek all about that in a second. But it was just like, cannot comply. Like, that's all I remember. Like, I'm just thinking, cannot. It just is not.
Oh, yeah. All the spot signs coming out right there. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm an adopted son of so.
Yeah, just feeling a lot like that, I guess. And then moving so much, made it hard. But I remember them making fun of me right in front of my face, and I just didn't catch it. And I think I look back at those times when they would make fun of my monotoneness, and now I try to like extrovert my voice. I didn't realize why I started doing that. And my flat affect, like I didn't understand why they were saying your face doesn't do anything. And now I'm over exaggerative in my expressions. Yeah, I got diagnosed later. Okay. For those reasons. I mean, you know, it's a lot of things started to change. I would say more moving out of middle school
Okay.
because I changed in order to fit the mold that I was, you know, pushed to be in, basically. So
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah, I certainly get that. And the problem is, like, we tend to have like multiple modes, molds, so that can make it pretty difficult. But thank you. So Alan, how did your experiences change from elementary to middle?
Basically, I just went to school in the UK, and autism diagnosis was not really heard of
Mm-hmm.
in my time as a kid, which is a shame because that would have changed a lot of things for me had I been diagnosed earlier with it. I was diagnosed in 2009, something like that, and 2013. Re-diagnosed in 2013, diagnosed in 2009, and then re-diagnosed in 2013 because of disagreements between professionals about it, me having it, and later it was discovered that I did have it genetically. Yeah, in 2013. So when I was in care and that. Yeah. So yeah, I just wish that I had autism diagnosis when I was a kid, and that, you know, I was basically diagnosed as a mild learning disabilities, which I have got, as well as autism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, man. And basically, how did did you have decent relationships in elementary school, and like did
Yeah,
that
at
change?
school I had decent relationships,
Okay.
even though I got bullied and that.
Mm-hmm.
But school, despite all that, yeah.
Yeah, and did that change when you got into like 6th grade and all that?
The bullying continued all the way up until I left school, really. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And
Wasn't
the
so frequent, but
yeah. But did the relationship like get better, get worse, or like stay the same?
it was all right. Stayed the same, really. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much of a change, basically.
No.
Okay. For sure. Thank you, Alan.
Welcome.
Malachi, what about you and your experiences? Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you.
My experience was a little bit good until like fifth grade was good too, but no one ever talked to me.
Oh, okay.
And I tried talking to other kids, but Jordan Miller, he used to be mean to me in the 6th grade, which I always hated. Oh. And then I sit at lunch by myself, and no one ever wanted to sit with me, which made me sad sometimes.
Yeah. Was that during elementary school or middle school, or was it both?
It was in elementary school.
Oh, okay. So in middle school it got better?
It got a little bit better, but my teachers were mean in the beginning of middle school.
I see. Yeah. So basically, what happened with your relationships between elementary and middle school?
Well,
Yeah. So basically, like during the transition, did they get better, worse, or like stay the same?
and let's start off with middle school, because middle school, it was not good. The beginning year was not good. In middle school, I was not really treated right, like the other kids, really. And most of the kids were just mean, rude, and most of them would just ignore me, like I don't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
And then teachers were just never really cared about me, really. I really felt that way.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that, man. Well, I certainly hope your high school experience is going better than that. All right. So JP, how did your like basically how did your experiences for change from elementary to middle school, like with your peers?
So actually, to begin with, it's not middle school. It's actually elementary school. So I'm going to start off by the first year of elementary school. I was actually unofficially diagnosed with autism at the age of 4, but the tools were not the same. Social media wasn't there with the actually autistic hashtags. So there were things that were put in place for me, which I'm somewhat grateful for. I had adaptations. I had someone that was with me in the classroom to help me out because I was in the regular classroom. I was at a first elementary school for the first 2 years of my, the first 2 years of my life. And then I changed the school because the principal of the school, it would have had an impact on the amount of services that I would have got as a kid. So from 3rd grade to 6th grade, most of my elementary school friends were made there, but I actually didn't have that many. So I had, like a specialized educator, really supervising me and watching me, making sure that I wouldn't hang out with the wrong crowd of friends, even though it was really tempting at times. I had maybe, no more than 4 or 5 friends at the time, although I have a little bit more, after that. But, everything started to be good. And as we become teenagers, we're also tempted, to have some odd sometimes behaviors or stuff. So the bullying started, I would say early on in the 6th grade, which forced me afterwards to go to a more less mainstream classroom and to a more reduced group classroom or something. So
right, yeah.
But that was at a month of December, and there were always behavioral sheets or something, and like every stim that I would be doing and everything that I would be doing would be noted. And I'll have the exact paper. Maybe I'll show it more into private stuff, but
yeah,
like everything, like from holding my head or using a Mr. Lizard, for example, which is like a stuffed animal and stuff.
Yeah, I'm
like,
sorry you're at 2 minutes 40 right now, but I definitely appreciate that comment, and yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you were able to get those services, and I'm glad you changed schools since that professor wasn't helping you out.
Yeah, definitely. And so 6th grade, I registered to high school. I didn't go to this 10,000 Canadian dollars or 20,000 Canadian dollar private school, which I would have ended up going. I went actually to a school called, which is maybe 15 minutes away.
All right, I think we lost
it was during this time.
Okay.
And so
JP,
I have to stop talking, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Time limit is 2.5 minutes, but I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with you. What about you? What about you, Bryce?
I just matured. I mean, like in middle school, I just understood myself better. I got better at communicating. That's about it.
For sure. But like basically, how did your like relationship change and all that, like with your peers?
I mean,
like basically, did you see a difference between elementary school and middle school?
I mean, not really. There's not much I can think of. I don't know.
Okay, for sure. So you'd say that your relationships sort of stayed the same?
They stay the same.
Okay, for sure. Thank you, Bryce. French fries, you have the floor for 2.5 minutes. How did your experience change between middle school and elementary school? Oh, you're muted.
I was muted.
Yep.
Okay. I was like 3.5 minutes. I mean, 2.5 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah, you got this.
Okay, so sorry, repeat the question again.
Yeah, okay. So it's how did your relationship with your peers change from elementary school to your middle school?
With my peers?
Yeah, like your
Oh
classmates.
yeah, my peers.
Yeah.
There was a big change. I think like when I started entering, well, when all of us started entering into like adolescence, puberty and stuff like that, that's where the real change in kids, started showing up, like their actual normal development and their actual personalities are coming out.
Mhm.
And I was like I always got kind of like bullied in elementary school by kids. It's something about me just called their attention and wanted to just kind of like mess with me a lot for one thing or another. But for the most part, I had a lot of friends and kids wanted to be my friends, and I never had trouble playing. I was a bit of a, the person that tried to call the shots a lot and stuff like that. But childhood was a lot of fun for me. Like I never had a lot of trouble, but there was a lot of struggles, especially my parents, teachers, stuff like that. But I don't want to talk about that. But compared to puberty and up, like there was not really something that I was like, oh my God, I hate him. I love my childhood. And then junior high came around, and then that's when just things started getting harder and harder. Kids were acting more their age, and I wasn't. I was still like a little kid. I was still very immature. I was very oblivious to a lot. I mean, a lot of what I went through. Pretty much. Just the other day, one of my friends I have a group chat on WhatsApp with my high school friends, and they were just talking about how this one incident about this girl saying something, and one of the girls and to defend me. They were all like, yeah, because Francesca, she was like never, like, people would say things, she never caught up on anything. Like she always was so oblivious about people saying things. She would never defend herself. And that was funny that she reminded me to look back into that time where I would hear that comment a lot. I would hear that comment a lot from people saying, like, Francesca, you need to kind of start standing up for yourself. People are making fun of you, and because you don't catch on to these teasing, you don't say anything back, it kind of makes them want to keep going at you. And I'm like, why? But I would catch up on some things, and some things will piss me off. But I feel like I'll probably catch on 50% of the things that.
2.5 minutes, French. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Final person to answer this question is April. So go ahead, April.
Okay. I'm just gonna read what I put. You said, how did your relationship with your peers change from elementary school to middle school? And I said, well, we didn't have middle school, but like that's like grade 6 or whatever. Like I said, I was always the weird kid and by myself in the field looking for snakes and spiders, wanting to teach and show my finds. I was always bullied and fighting, and I hated the neighborhood and school and pressure from the adults to achieve. That's all it was. When all I wanted to do was draw, write poetry, and write songs, and look for snakes and spiders right into adulthood. So this was hard for me. And then because of everything that was going on, in grade 6, I started getting in trouble with the law, and I started to connect with rebels until some things happened in my life. But this was what happened. This was the transition to the relationships, which I really didn't have any close relationships, but yeah. So sometimes I hung out with people, but it was really rare and normally didn't work out.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you very much for sharing your experiences. All right, everyone. So we are on to the second question here, and Bryce and Sarah actually have to go soon. So we'll go Bryce first, then Sarah, and then I'll kind of just like pick and choose who answers next, basically. So Bryce, you can go first. were you more affected by sensory overload in middle school than you were in elementary school? And how were you able to combat that?
What was that?
Yeah, so were you more affected by sensory overload than you were in elementary school? And how were you able to combat that?
Yeah, I had more sensory overload in middle school, because because like it's like it's a new school. It's a whole it's a big change, and how I was able to combat that was just get settled in. You know, like had to find a way to get comfortable. Just try to see what works for me.
Mhm.
And I just um, I just need to I just needed to I just needed to control myself, and like I just had to uh, I can't think of anything.
Okay, so you're saying you had trouble controlling yourself, like
Yeah,
kind
basically,
of like blocking out that sensory stuff?
yes.
Yeah, I get that, man. All right. Well, Bryce, you are free to go. Thank you so much for coming on, buddy. And
No problem.
everyone, be sure to subscribe to Bryce.
How old is Bryce?
14.
14. Oh, you're so young.
Yeah.
I thought he looked really young.
And I will. All right, man. Well, peace out, and I'll see you soon. All right.
Peace out.
So, Sarah, were you more affected by sensory overload than you were in elementary school? And how were you able to combat that?
Yes. Okay, I have more than that. I actually wrote this down because if y'all come to my channel, some of my videos are like an hour because I don't write it down. Okay. And then I keep on going. I keep on going with the possibilities. And that's just how my brain works. So I wrote it down.
Hey, it's a good thing.
Take tips. And then I time myself because I'm trying to be more productive in life. So I said most definitely. And I had to sit here and process that for a minute because I feel like my brain is some type of futuristic filing cabinet like Neo from the Matrix, but definitely not whatsoever. Like if I could.
You are very good with references.
But I feel like it's like I have to scan all these memories because I have memories since I was 3, and so it's just like. Anyway, and it was something that my mom actually would compliment about me, which is far few between those days. But I would say with more pressure in the social realm, more homework, going to school with fluorescent lights, no tools, didn't know I was autistic, didn't know, well, and I did know that I was like ADHD as crap. So there was that. Well, I mean, I didn't know, but like I figured it out pretty easily. And I remember coming home crying or completely burnt out most of the days. Now I'm going through it with my son and I know how to help him and what to do. Starving for a bunch of pizza rolls and some MTV or dumb Cartoon Network shows. I like to have that stuff around even still to this day because when my brain is done thinking, it's done. I can't even try to enjoy the games that I like or push myself because they're all strategy games and crime solving crap. Some days I would end up in the closet crying. Now I know was a meltdown. Like the movie Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. Boy, did they get that title right. I don't remember, or I remember relating to that kid, and now I know why. I combated it, well, sadly, by making as good of grades, and trying to instead survive, or not making as good as grades, And survive the social side of things. There was no way I could focus and do well, so may as well try to mask enough with the peers and do half well. It does get to me sometimes because it affected school here on out and me getting into decent colleges when I could do a lot. But you know, I survived, and I'm still a fighter with that kind of stuff. It sucks,
Yeah.
but you know, it wasn't just sensory. It's the sensory, it's the social. The more stuff that takes out of our energy for certain things, the more the stimulation is going to get more difficult. So, you know, I do that in today's times, but then not understanding it and not having anything to use, trying to focus on school or get anywhere other than graduating, maybe.
Yeah, almost impossible, right?
So, and I did, but I slid by and not with flying colors. And so,
Thank you, Sarah.
you know, fighting for my kids. So.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I can certainly relate to that. It's very frustrating when you spend a lot of energy on things that most people don't have to. I totally get that. All right. So how we're gonna? This is gonna. By the way, do you have to get going, or are you able to stay? What's up?
I have everything timed like 2 minutes.
Okay. All
So
right.
I'll be good. I might take y'all in my car with me and have the volume muted so I can listen. I got this, man. We got
awesome.
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. So the order we're going to finish up this question is Caleb, Malachi, Alan, French, Quigley, JP, and April. So Caleb, did sensory overload affect you more in middle school than elementary school, and how did you combat that?
You know, looking back now, and again, I wasn't diagnosed until much later in life. I think it was kind of suspected, but I never really like accepted the idea that I could be autistic. Most of the autistic people that I knew, this was the 90s, so I think the spectrum was a lot narrower than today. So when somebody said someone's autistic, they were talking about like that weird kid who's nonverbal and like has to be fed his food a certain way and will scream and carry on and be violent. So I didn't really like understand that there were high functioning autistic people. And so I was thrown to the wolves. My family did live events. The world was a stage for me. I was the performer. I was always in costumes because of historical reenacting. So I was like a magnet for cameras, crappy 90s cameras where everything had a flash attached.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I mean, we're not talking like hundreds of people. We're talking thousands of people.
Wow.
Like thousands, literally like 30, 40, 100,000 people.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So life would start on the weekend. It would start Thursday night. Friday morning, they would unleash all the public school kids to do field trips at these events. And there could be 5,000 to 10,000 kids shuffling through there. And of course, I'm their age and I'm dressed weird because I'm, part of the show. So they would gravitate towards me and like mob me and ask me all kinds of dumb questions. Like, I would go into character. Like I was suddenly, this pioneer child from,
You just punch like.
Sorry, who was that? But I would just kind of, I would go into like, this whole persona, and that was kind of how I coped with it. And the more aggressive they got, the bigger I got. But by the time Sunday night rolled around, I was done. I was not social. I was not taking anything from anybody. And it would be Tuesday before I would like feel like even speaking to anybody.
Right.
It would take me a full solid 48 hours to decompress and feel normal again. And it was just emotionally draining to the point of, wondering what was wrong with me. And I realize now it was just the fact that there was a constant dull roar from pretty much 8 a.m. until sundown for me.
Hey, that's 3 minutes, Caleb. But I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you answering the question. Yeah, 100%.
Hey, can you let me in on my phone?
Oh, okay, sure.
Man.
Should I remove you from the computer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. So Malachi, sensory overload. So how did you experience that in middle school, and how did you combat that? Oh, you're muted.
Well, even though I was kind of a bit freaked out at times, I still seemed to do my best to control it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And basically, how did you get overwhelmed?
The loud noises of fire drills.
Was that the only reason?
Yes.
Okay. So how did you feel about lunch and all that? Are you there, Malika?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So I just think that's interesting because I know for a lot of people it seems that like the lunch hour like really aggravated them and all that. And like the passing time between classes. So I just find that very interesting that didn't have an effect. Sure. All right, and one sec. So I'm sorry, remind me again, how were you able to combat that? Like how are you able to kind of use strategies to not be scared of that fire alarm and all that?
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, could you repeat the question one more last time?
Yeah, it's shoot, let me find it. It'd be were you more affected by sensory overload in middle school than you were in elementary school? If so, how were you able to combat that?
Yes. Well, I overcame it by walking myself through it, by just like going through it and just getting it over with, and just walking out the building. But the adults were next to me to help me, so I did fine. I did pretty fine on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they were able to understand that and help you through it. And I'm glad you used your strategies to overcome that. Thank you very much, Malachi.
You're welcome.
All right, Alan, how did you combat sensory overload in middle school? And basically, like, did you get it in the first place?
Basically, I had sensory overload even before I went to school. Throwing things and and definitely getting wound up if I was being bullied and that. Yeah.
Okay. So you experienced sensory overload through bullying?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. Were you affected by bright lights or loud sounds?
Yeah, it was like flashing lights I was affected by that caused epilepsy.
Right.
Whilst I was younger, yeah. And I had anger management as an adult and got over the worst of the anger and still get frustrated when things don't work out, but not so badly throwing things or lashing out at people,
Yeah,
now.
100%.
Hmm.
And how were you able to combat that?
Well,
Mhm.
I combated it as an adult, really. Had anger management and therapy. Yeah.
Okay. Did the therapy help you like overcome the sensory stuff? Like the sounds and the lights? Okay. And what,
It helped me understand it. Yeah.
understand like where it was coming from?
Pardon?
Like understand where it was coming from?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you, Alan. French fries, 2.5 minutes.
Well, from all of my problems, the sensory wasn't one that I would consider a problem when I was little. Like I was just, a picky eater. I didn't like certain textures, like socks on dry feet, and would have like a favorite blanket, and things like that. Certain music will get on my nerves to a point that made me throw up. Like I didn't like a lot. I didn't like. I grew up in Mexico, so I didn't like I didn't like any banda music. I liked most music, but just not music that was like obnoxious or heavy metal and stuff like that. So that was just kind of like one of my things, but it never caused me problems. I noticed that other people, like for example, certain sounds, like I was highly sensitive to like you have to write on the board with the white chalk. I couldn't touch the white chalk. It was very I was highly sensitive to that, and the sound of it would bother me. But I never been a very sensitive person in the sense of like if somebody told me just like deal with it, get over it. We're all kind of don't like it that much either, so I just be like, okay, fine. Like I wouldn't make a big deal out of things unless it was really extreme, like loud music and stuff like that. But low sensory things, I would just find a way to avoid them, but they never caused me problems. And then with food, I started getting very into trying all kinds of foods. Like I didn't like most fruits because of the texture. They're like onions, they're like a lot of things, until I was like about my 20s. That's when I started kind of like being more open-minded to try new things, and now I like most things.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, French. Let's see here, Tasha. How did you experience sensory overload, and how did you combat that in middle school?
Yeah, well, as far as like having it get worse, I don't think it really got any worse. Like I definitely experienced a lot of sensory issues all throughout my life. I think it was worse when I was younger, and I sort of just found a way to distract myself and block it out and really just get used to it the older I got.
Yeah.
But and I think that was also a big part of that was the fact that I was undiagnosed. So I just thought like, oh, well, like I'm just being sensitive. I'm just being a baby or like whatever. And I just need to suck it up and deal with it. Everyone else seems to be able to, hear the teacher over the light. So like, why can't I? I just have to listen better. And I just sort of coped with it in that way. I think actually going into like the 7th and 8th grade, and then especially in high school, it was maybe easier to cope with also because your school, at least for me, it became a lot more structured. Like they were trying to get us ready for high school. So instead of having all of our classes in the same room, they had us moving around to different rooms and stuff like that. So there was just a lot more to keep me distracted, essentially.
Right.
And it was always the kind of like most of whatever I was learning in school, I just always liked learning kind of anything. So I was always able to just stay focused on whatever the teacher was talking about because I usually found it interesting. And then that was it. Either that or a lot of the time later, often I would just sort of zone out and I would realize that I hadn't heard anything that the teacher had said for the last like 10 minutes. And I'd be like,
Guilty.
Is that
Yeah.
part of the sensory thing? That will happen to me all the time. Like,
I think that is. Yeah,
I
'cause
think a shutdown actually,
Mhm.
where it's all too much. So you just kind of, for me, it would just be like, I would kind of stare at a point on the wall and that would be it for like
Yeah,
a good,
it would make you like
snap back into reality and be like, oh, it's been a while.
yeah. I always blame my ADHD for that because I still kind of do that. But yeah, it a fly can pass by, anything can pass by, it will distract me. A sound, a noise. Even to this day, like little buzz. I think the most annoying ones are the little tiny buzzing sounds. Those are the ones that drive me insane. Like I mean, obviously a big loud sound too, like will drive me insane.
Right.
I feel like somewhere in the middle, not so much.
Hey guys, I think you're having a great conversation, but we do have to move on just due to time. I'm so sorry, guys. So JP, you can go ahead with your sensory overload story.
JP.
He's coming. Oh, you're muted, buddy. One sec.
You're muted.
Technical issues are real today.
Oh, here we go. So
There we go.
you guys hear me better?
Yes.
All right, that's good. So I I don't have like a lot of sensory issues, but the conversation you guys are having is super fun to have it. I'm happy to have it. So I would probably say the chalkboard, it has, like a funny sound or something before smart boards became a thing here. So yeah, that's one of those sensory issues, especially in elementary school. What else? The fire drills. Fire drills, it was a kind of a crazy experience. I remember one time there was a fire drill in the high school, and we all had to go out. I didn't even have my coat on, so we had to run on the spot. It was really fun with the fire drills and stuff. It wasn't really fun. It lasted a little bit, but you know those practice fire drills where you're like not worn or anything. There wasn't any shooting drills or anything, but it was fire drills. It was something else, and like sometimes you really have to plan in advance. Sometimes it's unexpected. And if there was actually a real fire and it happened on the classroom and then going down the ladders, that would be super scary. Like I would be what the fuck is going on,
Yeah.
But sensory issues, I would say the biggest one is sometimes not seeing the noise coming up, and then you're like super flanker stabbed or
and deaths in the U.S. are caused by chronic illnesses that are preventable.
What's going on? Okay.
Oh, it's an ad. It's an ad.
You guys can hear that?
I don't have any advertisements in this collab. This is ad free. So turn that off.
I know you're here, but we're gonna stay up, Eric's way.
All right. So is that your answer, JP? That was your answer, JP?
That was my answer, and I think that's it for now. So.
Thank you very much, JP. All right, we got April left, and then this is actually going to be a two-part video for you YouTubers out there. So I'm going to stop recording after April. We're going to have a little break, like get some food, water, everyone, and then we'll come back and finish up this last hour. So April, go ahead with your answer.
Okay. More affected by sensory. So I said, so to this question, I said, not just sensory, but also my inability to be in crowded areas with unfamiliar people and still working and learning strategies around this. Like I'm still working on it. And too many demands with no support. I also had seizures from sensory overload. I also had PICA, I think it's called. and I didn't eat very much when I was a kid. And then they used to threaten me with needles because I wouldn't eat for really long periods of time. But I really wasn't actually hungry, and I didn't like food, so that's probably why I had pica. And someone's thing is on. Someone's audio is on or something.
Yeah, I just muted.
Okay, so yeah, and now it's more for me. Now it's more smells. Smells really bother me. I mean, like, I think this is just the most stank world in just, what is this? Seriously, everywhere I go, there's some funky smell. I could never get away from it. You know what I mean? So yeah, so now my thing is, my thing is smells, and then also bright lights sometimes. But when I was younger, definitely way worse, but still working on it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, I'm certainly glad that it got a little better. And that you were able to do something about that. All right, everyone. So we're about 50 minutes in. That was part 1 that will be posted on YouTube. And we're going to take about a 5-minute break here, and we'll be back for part 2.
All righty.